What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is The Flash, Season 3, Episode 22, Infantino Street. So, this is the one that's all been building up to the episode where Iris finally dies. And I don't know, it felt like it had to happen at this point. Because they've been doing so much throughout this season. They've been trying so many different options to try to stop him. And no matter what happened, it never felt like enough. It never felt like they were able to stop Savitar. Every single time it felt like they got some sort of... It felt like, oh, we got one over on him. All of a sudden something happens to just say, oh, never mind, you didn't. So we see in this episode, Barry once again tries to go to an extreme to try to stop him. He gets Captain Cold to help him out, plucks him from when he was still on the Legends, so he can help him break into Argus to get this piece of tech to power this gun that's supposed to trap Savitar in the Speed Force. But of course, despite all that, the gun doesn't work, and so Savitar still isn't stopped. What I do find interesting, though, there are a few things that are worth looking at. First of all, the whole Argus thing felt like just a waste of time. It felt like you could have just started off with Lila saying, "Here you go, have it." But instead, she had to be all, "Oh, I don't know if I can trust you. We had baby Sarah, but then now we have a boy, and I don't know if I can trust you to do this again." And all that sets up is now he goes and gets Captain Cold to help him break into Argus to steal it, and by the end of it, she's just like, "Oh, okay, here you go, you can have it, because you were willing to risk your freedom and Iris's life just to save Snart, so I feel like I can trust you now." It just felt like a waste of time. So that part of it was kind of frustrating, but it did lead to more time with Snart, which is always fun. I mean, he's probably one of my favorite characters in the Arrowverse. He's kind of over the top, but he's also a lot of fun to listen to as he, everything he says, everything he does, it sounds like it has a purpose. I mean, one of the best lines in this episode was when, Barry is about to shoot Killer Shark or King Shark with a freeze gun, and then Snort's just like, talking about Shark Week and how he was able to watch it because they got cable on the Wave Rider. It's just like, where are you going with this? And then he starts talking about, how sharks, whatever type of shark he is, apparently they're warm-blooded, so if it gets cold down to like 53 something degrees, then they fall asleep. And so he's like, so what do you think? Should we just put him to sleep, or would you like to kill him and prove you're a badass? Just the way he says it is it's so precise, and you can tell that he says what he means, and nothing he says is without thought. So they manage to stop King Shark, and of course, at that point, it's like, oh, he's asleep, or is he? As his fin like pokes out from under the ice fog or whatever. But of course, he actually is asleep, so they manage to get the piece of tech that they need, but then it shuts down. Barry manages to get out, Snart's trapped inside. Cisco manages to hack in to save him before he dies. Another thing I find very interesting is, of course, King Shark manages to grab a hold of Snart before he's fully out. He's trying to pull him back in. Cisco closes the door on his hand, and then they look inside and his hand grows back instantly. It's interesting. I don't know what that means, but it's kind of concerning that if King Shark ever did get out, apparently he could just regrow his limbs. That's kind of worrying. But yeah, so they managed to get out. Like I said, Lila sees what Barry did, and she's just like, oh, you can have the piece of tech now. So, of course, this leads to the final bit where Savitar comes in pretending to be Barry, and of course, HR doesn't shut his big mouth, and so he reveals, oh yeah, Joe's still got Iris on Earth too, whatever. I don't know. As soon as he runs in and he just starts talking, I'm like, oh no. Like, I knew instantly what was going to happen. And so, of course, he runs over to Earth 2, manages to get Iris, breaks Wally's leg, which kind of shows how that happens later on. We see Wally's in a wheelchair, and, that's why he's in the wheelchair. On top of that, while they're over on Earth 2, we do have a touching moment between Iris and Joe. They're confessing stuff because it feels like, this might be it, so just in case, let's talk one more time. And so we see, she's talking to him about stuff, and then at the end of it, she takes off her ring, gives it to him, and she's like, hold on to it just in case. So that shows why she wasn't wearing the ring when she died. And so, while all that's going on, the only part that's really disappointing about showing us all of that is it kind of feels like you're just showing, yeah, everything's leading to her dying. And so I don't know. It was kind of disappointing that they decided to show all of that, and so that's how, you could just sort of tell that's what it's leading to. She's not wearing a ring. Wally's leg gets broken, so this is how it all leads to this. The one thing though that did change, and I'm curious to see why it did. The second time that, whenever Cisco vibed Barry back to the future so he could see what had changed in the future, we see that Iris still died, but for some reason HR was up on the roof with some sort of gun. We see Joe now is up on the roof with some sort of gun. So I don't know if that has anything to do with something that changed, like maybe that'll mean something in the next episode. But I just found it very interesting that he changed and now all of a sudden, he's the one with the gun on the roof. On top of that, we also see that, obviously one thing that did change was the gun that Barry had to try to trap Savitar in the Speed Force. Of course, Savitar realizes what's going on, so he goes and gets the Philosopher's Stone to make sure he doesn't get trapped inside the Speed Force, which, of course, it almost feels like that should have happened anyway. Like, I'm curious to see why that changed. Maybe later on he was going to get the Philosopher's Stone, but since he realized that Barry was trying to do this speed gun thing early, maybe he got the Philosopher's Stone early. But yeah, we see that he's not able to be trapped in the Speed Force because of that. And so Barry, of course, realizes that that's pretty much it. Like, that was their last line of attack on him. And so Savitar stabs Iris as the sad music is playing. We see the video message that Iris was leaving. I wondered if she was going to be like, I'm pregnant or something like that, just to make it even more sad, but she just records herself saying that she, took him as her husband, and so pretty much just said her vows. Don't know why she did that. I guess I don't know. Maybe to make him feel better, but I feel like it's just gonna make him feel worse. Like, I don't know. It's strange. But that's pretty much how it ends. With him holding her. We see Joe's obviously like looking on, tears in his eyes. So I don't know where this is all leading to. I felt like this may have happened in the final episode, but the fact that it happened in the next last episode means that it kind of makes me feel like they're gonna actually stop Savitar earlier than they did in the original future. Like, before it took several years for them to stop him. This time it feels like they're gonna stop him next episode. So I'm really curious to see how this is all gonna end. I know on IMDb this one got a 9.3, and then the finale got an 8.0. So I don't know if they're going to come up with some sort of like bullshit way for Iris to still be alive. Like, oh yeah, this whole thing was a hologram. It was just a super real hologram, so it felt like somebody was actually there when they're not. Or I don't know if they're going to do something like that, or if it's just, I don't know. I don't know what to expect. I truly don't, because after this, anything goes, because Barry, he knows what the future holds after Iris dies. He knows what happens with future Barry, what happens with the time remnants. So the question is he going to create a bunch of time remnants to stop Savitar this time, or is he going to do something different? And once again, this kind of leads into my theory of how time works in this world, which is future doesn't change until it actually happens. So if he somehow finds a way to stop Savitar next episode without creating time remnants, it kind of leads to the thought of, okay, now that he hasn't created any time remnants, now Savitar no longer exists. So I'll be curious to see if he changes up anything with his final battle, if they find some way to maybe stop him with, like, taking away this Philosopher's Stone, if there's some way that they manage to bring Caitlin back, because we see at the final part of this episode, she and Cisco are fighting. I find that I find it interesting that they decided to do that, because Barry knows what happens. We've seen he goes and fights her in the forest, they battle, but then he loses his hands, and on top of that, she's still bad, she's still evil. So it feels like you're just setting it up for that to happen. You're setting him up for him to lose his hands and for her to still be evil. So, I don't know, I feel like Barry would have said something along the lines of, I know how that battle turns out, so Cisco, come help me, and then she can just stay in in the forest. We can deal with her later, but we need to stop Savitar now. I don't know. I found that very strange that they didn't think about that they didn't think about the fact that we already know how that battle ends. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the finale. Obviously, I don't know what to expect, but I'm hoping that it's not something like cheesy bullshit way of making everything turn out with a happy ending. Because honestly, that's one of the things that the Flash has done really well is show there's not always a happy ending. Even when it feels like things are going to work out, they don't. Sometimes things just don't work out. Eddie Thawne having to kill himself in the first season. Um, Caitlin losing her fiance, Robbie, I think. No, Robbie's the actor's name. What was his name? Ronnie, maybe? I don't remember. Um, but some of those things you wondered if they were just gonna, oh, let's bring him back to life, let's bring him back and take away the emotional weight of that. Like many of the things on Arrow, to be honest. So yeah, I hope they don't just come up with some bullshit way to get out of this and keep us all happy because Iris is still gonna be on the show. Um, but I guess we'll see how it's all going to end next episode. So let me know what you guys think of this one down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts going into the finale? What were your thoughts on this episode? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all the good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Flash reviews, and I'll see you at the next one. Peace out.